evening, everyone, and welcome to Political Fixer Live. I am your host this evening, Shawna Presley Vercher, and I want to say a special hello to our new audience on Substack. So now we're broadcasting live on TikTok at Political Fixer, Substack at Political Fixer, and YouTube on Political Fixer. So really excited about that. And the important thing is not where I am, but where you are, where you can participate in Political Fixer Live, because it's all about making sure that you can jump in with your comments, your questions, your suggestions, and of course, support for each other as the Political Fixer family. We've got so much to cover. It's been a busy week, hasn't it? A lot of things to talk about. And we're going to start with just a quick rundown of what to expect in the show, because there's so many different things that we're looking to cover. Okay. First things first, we are definitely going to talk about No Kings and that lovely parade, whatever that was. So that'll definitely be part of our program. We've got some fun gossip for you as far as the parade is concerned. So we'll definitely be talking about that. We're going to be talking about what's happening with Iran. There's a lot of very recent developments. I do not have all the answers, but I'm going to share the information I do have and would ask you all to weigh in, especially those of you that have a much broader background in the military than I do, and just try to understand what's going on. And then we are going to start the hour, unfortunately, with some unpleasant news. We are going to talk about in the uptick in political violence and how this wind has kind of shifted in a major way. And we actually have some more developments of some things that have happened today with yet another ICE detainment. So we're going to start with that story. And even though it's going to get a little bit dark, but we are going to make sure that and we're going to cover war, which, also not great, but we are going to end on a high note together as a family and celebrate the victory of this weekend and what we've all done and what we can do with this energy from there. That is really important. It's such an amazing feat that you all accomplished collectively. So happy to see all of the results of that we'll talk about in just a bit. But what comes next? Okay. So, hello to our Political Fixer family, especially those who kicked off Political Fixer with TikTok. And, if any of you can see us on Substack or YouTube, you should be able to get into the chat and see us and participate as well. But this is new to us, so definitely let us know and give us feedback. We also have our Political Fixer team. Couldn't do anything without them, of course. So say hello to Eddie and to Sarah and to J Robot, as well as so many of our Political Fixer supporters that are out there. All right, let's dive in and eat the vegetables first. I hate talking about negative stories, but we gotta. This one is definitely something we need to spend a little time on. Okay, before we get to the results of the No King protests and some of the impact that we're seeing with the anti-ICE protests, particularly in Los Angeles, let's talk about the downside first, and the fact that these peaceful protests we have seen interrupted. Particularly, we've seen footage of LAPD or the LA County Sheriff. There's still some discrepancy on which one was caught in some of these film clips. They've been filmed using tear gas. They've been seen surrounding people who are unarmed and beating them. They've been seen stomping on unarmed protesters with horses. We have seen them fire less lethal bullets at protesters, including children, and intentionally, from everything we can tell from the footage, a journalist from Australia, they detained journalists. And this violence has continued to escalate by the state, so to speak. And not only that, it appears that this administration is getting quite comfortable with going after our Democratic and democratically duly elected officials. We already had in May the mayor of New Jersey, Ross Baraka. He was arrested for doing his job outside of an ICE facility in his district. He has a right as an elected official to come in and inspect those facilities. And instead, he was cuffed and arrested. Though they later said that they dropped charges. A few days later, a Milwaukee County Circuit Judge, Hannah Dugan, was indicted for allegedly obstructing justice because she allegedly told an immigrant who was there in a hearing to take the elevator. So that judge is now facing criminal charges. We can't forget the congresswoman from New Jersey, LaMonica McIver. She was there with the mayor of New Jersey, Mayor Baraka, and her charges haven't been dropped. She has been indicted as a congresswoman for trying to inspect a federal facility that she decides on funding for. So, as all Congress people do. Then on June 12th, Senator from California, Alex Padilla, he was forcibly removed, thrown down on the ground, and handcuffed and then detained for asking a question at a press conference with Kristi Noem. Now, today, we have a new development. I did a video last week, I believe it was, covering the New York mayor's race and talking about how we have about 9 people at the time, though some have coalesced now, running for New York City mayor on the Democratic side, and that likely that one of them would become the new nominee. The video, since that video has been posted, I talked about in the video that if any of them have a chance of defeating Cuomo, they've got to start forming some alliances. And since that time, some things have shifted. On the one hand, there's one candidate in particular that is giving for former Governor Cuomo a run for his money. His name is Mamdani, and he has been soaring in the polls. Well, as his popularity continued to increase, particularly after that debate, he formed an alliance with a couple of different candidates, including Brad Lander. Now, Brad Lander, if you've never heard of him before, after today, I highly recommend that you take a moment and look him up. He is the New York City comptroller. He is one of the candidates. I watched him in the debate. I didn't do a lot of talking about Brad in the video. I found him to be like a really fearless, tenacious guy. But at the time, I really didn't give him much thought one way or another. I will be the first to say I underestimated Mr. Lander. Apparently, quietly in his professional capacity, he has been escorting immigrants and their families to and from court hearings as just something he does as a volunteer to try to oversee and make sure the proceedings have been legal and that their rights have been protected because of his background. He's just been doing this according to multiple sources for months and months as this stuff has been happening, particularly with ICE. Well, today, again, escorting an immigrant to his hearing, ICE detained the city comptroller, the guy in charge of the money of one of the largest cities on the planet. They took him, cuffed him, and arrested him, as well as the immigrant who he was escorting. And God love him, he's trying to reach for the guy he was escorting into court to make sure he was okay. That was like his focus. He wasn't even worried about himself. He just wanted to make sure this guy was okay. Spoiler alert, he's not okay. He's been detained. And, again, this was a guy going to court following the process. So we have a lot of things that we need to talk about with this escalation, and we're going to get to some even deeper stuff in a moment. But before we dive in to even the more escalated violence, let's sit here for a second with the number of public officials who have been arrested, detained, or strongmanned as they go into doing their jobs. And I guess my question for the group is this something that we now should expect from our elected officials? And what I mean by that is the new standard, you better be willing to put your body on the line with everything that's going on. Are we done with like thoughts and prayer statements and committee hearings and what have you? Has the political violence has shifted? The temperature has been raised. Have the goalposts shifted for what we are expecting from our elected leaders? Or do you think that these things are distracting and that they are stunts? I want to know what you all have to say about these elected officials putting themselves on the line to try to stand up to what's happening. All right. So we've got a lot of people on tonight. I want to see you, particularly on TikTok. You guys always have strong opinions here. I also want to take a second and thank you for all of the lovely gifts and the hearts and the likes. I want to shout out some of the gifters, including Marlene and Vivian and so many of our Political Fixer family. We're at already over 5,000 likes, but I want to know what you like out of candidates and elected officials. Do you expect them now to do whatever is necessary, including putting their body in the line of fire, so to speak, to protect us? Or is that going too far? So Marlene says, yes, this is off the rails with the mistreatment of those trying to do their jobs. Kelly is saying yes. Pat, Trump is taking us to war to hide all of his crimes. I mean, can you? Is there a hole deep enough to hide all those crimes? Just kidding. Marlene says yes, they need to step it up. So many nice gifts, everyone, and hi to Veronica and so many others. Free Spirit says they need to take it to the wire. Heather says, I don't expect it, but I condone and admire it. Good way to put it, Heather. I love that. Sherry says yes, in order to protect democracy. We've got another yes from Shannon Begley. So the question at hand is, with more and more of these political officials and elected officials putting themselves and saying, yeah, if you got to detain me, is that what the times are calling for? Right. And I guess my oh, here we go. We've got Midlife Cringe. Love that handle, by the way. Saying defending and protecting the vulnerable is the bare minimum. Yes, we have to keep in mind that this isn't just about political football. It shouldn't be anyway, that there are actually far more vulnerable lives at stake. Before I continue reading your comments, I do want to say one more thing about Brad Lander. And in no way am I trying to influence anyone's vote. I have my favorite for New York City mayor, but it doesn't matter, right? Like, you guys need to do your own thing. But I do want to give credit where credit is due. And Brad Lander, when he has been since released, and when he made his statement, he was there with Governor Hochul and or Hochul, forgive me, and he was very quick to say, I'm okay. I get to go home and sleep in my bed tonight. These other people are not okay. They do not get to go home. They do not get to sleep in their own bed. They don't know what's going to happen to them. So not only do I admire how he actually took one for the team and really like put himself in harm's way, but also how he made it not about him. So I would interject to add to all of these comments, right, that it's not enough even to just do the work. You got to do it with other people in mind, whatever that work is. Okay. So Lo-Fi Junkie says, no, oh, you guys are going so fast. No, we need leaders who will stand against tyranny. You can't do that from jail. Okay, fair point. But, okay, I like that point. I'm interested to see what everybody else thinks about it. Okay, Mandy from NCJ says, this is a time for heroes, and real life heroes have a lot to lose. Vivian says they need to be aggressive and call each one of them out. Calling them out would be the nice bare minimum, right? I'm really sick of the both sides stuff. Deborah says very troubling times we have going on right now. Absolutely true, Deborah. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And Dale says, Brad Lander, I didn't know this about him. Neither did I. I've been following Dale, his the race and his stuff in the debates, and he's done really well, and he struck me as a really sharp, nice guy, but I really didn't give him too much thought, to be fair, and that's on me. I have underestimated his game. But just today, he was detained. Midlife Cringe says he is using his privilege to try to protect others. Such a good point. Free Spirit says leaders today must lead. Midlife says also they don't actually have any charges in any of these cases. The only one I think that does have charges is, I do think they kept the charges with LaMonica McIver. I do think she actually has been indicted by a grand jury. And the interesting thing that I've learned, and I am not an attorney, so anyone correct me if I'm wrong, is apparently they can and did shop this. Like, you can go to a grand jury and they can be like, oh, we don't really think so. And you could just keep trying until one indicts. We don't know how many they went to. So just because a grand jury said yes, I don't want you to infer innocence or guilt from that. But LaMonica McIver is a congresswoman who is inspecting a federal facility. So I would be stunned if this moves very far once it gets in front of a judge. Veronica brings up what I feel is a great point. They work for us, and all of them need to act like it. Ugh, scream that from the rafters. And purple school. Wait, hold on. Purple school schooly girl. I got you. Yes, if we don't protect the marginalized groups of our country, they won't stop. This is so true. Marlene says, since Trump declared war against U.S. citizens, our leaders must step up their game. Midlife brings up it's legal harassment. Yeah, so the topic we have for those of you just joining us, we're talking about this increased disturbing trend, which just this week resulted in a week ago charges for a Congresswoman, LaMonica McIver from New Jersey, who was inspecting the ICE facility as she has her legal, not just right, but responsibility to do. California's U.S. Senator Alex Padilla, who was forcibly removed and handcuffed and thrown to the ground at a DHS press conference. And just today, New York City comptroller, so current sitting official and mayoral candidate Brad Lander, who was full-blown arrested in immigration court. Now, again, the charges they said were dropped. Thank you. Anyway, so this trend is continuing. There is no, I want to say one other quick thing about this. Not just with this particular thing. We have seen footage time and time again on TikTok, on Facebook, anywhere you get clips, Blue Sky, wherever. We have seen countless footage of these ICE detentions or what have you, whatever they're saying, whatever they are calling them, these roundups, what I call kidnappings. Here is one of the things that I found really disturbing about the Brad Lander situation. Now, he was in a courtroom. He had an LAPD officer with him for security. The LAPD officer is standing there saying, "Where is your warrant?" These guys did not have a badge. They did not introduce themselves. They didn't even have a $20 Etsy ICE vest on that you can get on any website or Amazon.com. Like, they had nothing to identify themselves as being legal, and yet we're allowing people to just be taken off the streets and thrown into vehicles while detained with no process. Forget due process for just a second. I mean, we sailed by actual court hearings and legal versus guilty and all that like months ago. I'm saying that right now, how do you know if these people are ICE versus some creepy guy? How do you know that they actually are just awful people that are sanctioned by the government versus awful, scary people who are not? And that is terrifying. And it leads me to, unfortunately, our next story, which is what happened in Minnesota. So Saturday, this news kind of got a little bit lost at first, but I watched as it kind of spread because of all of the parade and the No Kings and what have you. But let me just tell you a little bit about what happened with the attack on the Minnesota lawmakers. So, first of all, there's some misinformation floating out there, so we're going to correct some of that. But let me tell you some of the more horrible side of it first, and we're going to keep it very PG because I know some of you listen to this in the car at dinner, so we'll keep it very PG. But State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark were fatally wounded in their home, and she had been in the Minnesota House of Representatives for 20 years. And it was said by some, and I don't pretend to know as well as those that are in Minnesota, that you don't have a Governor Walz who is able to talk about the policies and everything that he did on the campaign trail as the vice presidential nominee if you don't have a Melissa Hortman. Every person has talked about how she has stood up for people time and time and time again, no matter how popular or unpopular it might have been. Everything I read about her, it's just amazing and yet more tragic. And then State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette, were also shot multiple times. However, they have received surgeries, and the latest we have is that they are expected to recover. Though, again, I want to be mindful that I know we sometimes have little ears listening, but the specifics and the harrowing, I got this, the details are very haunting. So we're not going to go through those, but I just want to take a second because sometimes we reduce things to headlines. Okay, here's something that's floating around that I just wanted to clarify, which is about the suspect. So the suspect, Mr. Bolter, Boelter, he has been detained, and he was detained very close to his house, which makes no sense to me, but whatever. He is facing 6 federal charges, including 2 counts of stalking, 2 counts of murder, and 2 firearms related charges. And then separately at the state level, he is charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted second-degree murder at the state level. So here's some questions that I saw, and some attorneys answered these for me for what it's worth. And again, I'm not an attorney, so correct me if I'm wrong. One of the questions was, why did the state of Minnesota not charge him with first degree instead of second degree? And my understanding is that is a matter of process, that when you first start out, it's kind of like level 1. You go through this first part and you get charged at the highest level you can be charged, is my understanding at that moment, is second degree. And once you go to the next part and they impanel a grand jury, then they could elevate those charges. So I want to make sure that we understand that it could be elevated from that. The other thing that someone said is, what if 47 just pardons him? So that's another thing that people were asking. And here's a really important thing. A president cannot pardon state charges. So the fact that he was federally charged and also state charged at the state level, that's super important, because it means that he cannot later be pardoned. And I'm not saying he would, but whatever, we'll just let that float out there for a second. Okay. I want to get to who this guy is that's the suspect just a bit, because some of you are already jumping ahead of me, which, you guys are so good. You're so educated as an audience. You know what's what. So let's talk about this just briefly, and then we're going to take this somewhere else. But I just want to say that the list of things that are red flags about this guy, like just huge red flags. Okay. He had a manifesto. One of you said you saw some of his videos on YouTube, didn't know he had anything, and that, I don't want to put words in your mouth. It was freaking wild. Watched his videos on YouTube. Okay. He was a pastor who homeschooled his children, a missionary who considered himself to be an extremist who was a heavy supporter of 47 and very MAGA. All right. Whether or not his political affiliation had turned out to be what it was, which his roommates apparently said, that he was a 47 supporter or whatever, that's not really my bigger concern. My bigger concern is big picture. This middle-aged, loves guns, isolationist, posts extremist things online guy, this is the profile. This is the profile for most of the mass shootings that we see. And yet, this administration has eviscerated the budget for tracking this type of extremism, tracking this type of terrorism, tracking these types of hate groups that spread and indoctrinate people and teach them how and encourage these levels of violence and crimes. This is something we need to keep an eye on. And I understand we don't have the numbers right now, but when things start to shift and when we start making demands of candidates, as there start to happen with primaries and new people running for office at any level, whether it's a state office or a local office or someone that's in federal office, I want us to remember that we have wiped out resources that used to exist to monitor, track, and coordinate information of these hate groups at local police departments and sheriff's communication networks and state funding of red states on up to federal funding. We need to be demanding to do that if we're ever going to turn this tide back. This is not a lone wolf. This is a guy that has been indoctrinated. Someone said that he has a $5 million bond. I actually don't know that. I'll try to see if someone could look that up for us. I'm a little stunned, Jenna, if that is true. I guess I shouldn't be, but if he is let out on bond at all, then, what are we doing here? But I want to pivot to something else related about this story, because one of the things that inflames this type of political violence is the harmful rhetoric that our elected officials at the highest level are continuing to use. Within hours of the news hitting of these assassinations, Marjorie Taylor Greene posted a photo of herself holding an automatic weapon, right? But not to be outdone, U.S. Senator Mike Lee was posting jokes. The first time he posted, "This is what happens when Marxists don't get their way." It's unclear whether he was making fun of the people that were assassinated and saying they're the Marxists, or if he was trying to say the shooter was a Marxist. Doesn't matter. It was nonsense, and it was hurtful, and it was absolutely not becoming or befitting of a U.S. senator in a time when this happened, which has not happened. This is not normal. People being shot while they're serving should not become normal. And then he went on to make another joke and posted a photo of the assassin and said "Nightmare on Walls Street," a joke about people dying aimed at Governor Walz. So he's since taken the post down, but anytime a guy like this desperately wants our attention, then I think I need to look at him a little bit closer and see, who are they, what rock did they crawl out from under, and what do we all need to know about them? So just like we did with Stephen Miller a couple of weeks ago, let's dive into Senator Mike Lee and settle in, kids, because there's some twists and turns to this story. Are we ready? Senator Mike Lee. Mike Lee. Mike Lee is from Utah. He is a Mormon, and he is part of a political dynasty family. His father was Rex E. Lee, and he was the U.S. Solicitor General under Reagan. He also was the founding dean of the J. Reuben Clark Law School at BYU. So he comes from power and he comes from money, and a small, kind of big fish, small pond, right, in the state of Utah. He is ultra conservative. He once clerked for the guy who would become Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito. So he leveraged his family's political capital and the name to go through law school and then get this clerkship, and then went on from there and served as a state attorney, I believe, or U.S. Assistant State Attorney. He capitalized on the Tea Party moment objectively brilliantly. He read the temperature of what was happening, and he came out in, I want to say, 2010, and said against a sitting Republican Utah Senator, Bob Bennett, that he was too moderate, that he was not fit for the times, and he riled up the Tea Party base, and he positioned himself as this constitutional absolutionist, right? Which is, interesting considering all of the laws that he's conveniently discarding now with everything going on with 47. But I digress. So at the Utah State Convention, he used some political maneuvering and he ousted a sitting U.S. Republican senator of his own party at the convention, which was very dramatic, seen to be a power play. And from then on, he was kind of seen as anointed for the seat. Nobody wanted to go up against him. It's a Senate seat, so it only gets up for election every 6 years, and it's Utah, and he's a Republican. So he's felt safe to go farther and farther and farther more extreme. He aligned himself with firebrands right when he got into the Senate. He became besties with Ted Cruz and Rand Paul. And this is not the first terrible thing that he said, as you can imagine. I rounded up just a few recent ones. But in 2019, Senator Lee was one of the people that blocked the extension of funding for the 9/11 first responders for their victim compensation fund. He blocked money for the first responders of 9/11. It gets worse. In the meeting where they were pleading with him, this is a recount This story is recounted by Jon Stewart, the comedian, the television talk show host and comedian. Jon Stewart, as many of us know, he is extremely passionate about seeking relief for 9/11 first responders in general. He went to these meetings with some of these people who survived 9/11. And according to Jon Stewart, he says, as they were going around talking to Democratic and Republican senators, begging them not to end this funding, one of the first responders described how he was trapped under the rubble, and Lee laughed at him and said, "Ha, I bet that makes for some great stories." And according to Jon Stewart, he said he's met with Republicans, he's met with Democrats, but there was only one time that he left a meeting saying, "F that guy," and it was Senator Mike Lee. He's been extremely inflammatory, and this whole constitutional abolitionist shtick was just that. It was a scam. He has said that he's not interested in protecting our democracy. He said that democracy isn't the objective, liberty and peace are. What does that mean? Well, according to Mike Lee, liberty means that government makes decisions for you. And just recently, as in weeks ago, he introduced a new bill called the Interstate Obscenity Definition Act, trying to redefine pornography and ban it across the country to include nearly all sexual content. And again, we're going to keep this PG, but regulating what we're allowed to see in the privacy of our own homes that is legal and not harming anyone is not liberty. Speaking of liberty, I want to take a second before we dive in more into Mike Lee, because there's a plot twist here, and say hi to Vivian, Penny, Veronica, who's sending a bunch of gifts, Divine AF Girl, also Professor Liberty Esquire. So good to see you on here. And Professor has a really great comment here. The GOP never cared about the Constitution. It was a lie to get power, like states' rights. Put it on a t-shirt, Professor. I mean, you are absolutely right. Now, as someone that likes to pick on marginalized groups, I don't think it would surprise any of us to know that Senator Lee has also said some really unconscionable and gross things about immigrants. Recently, he says, and this is a quote, "We are continuing to hand out welfare to illegals. It acts as a magnet for them to keep flooding our communities." Now, in the scheme of things, with everything we're inundated with, that might not sound that bad, but let's just stop for a second and pause on what he's doing. When you call humans illegals, like they are objects, like they are dangerous, you are dehumanizing them. It encourages and stokes up this violence, particularly against that community. He also says they're flooding our communities, making every immigrant sound as if they are a threat to you and I, which is not only not true, but the opposite is true. Immigrants make up a substantial amount of not just our communities, 1 in 7 Americans are immigrants, but our economy as well. They serve in our military, they open businesses, many of them pay taxes. And that brings me to the third really harmful lie that has been spread that he continues to propagate, which is that we hand out welfare to illegals. The opposite is true. Did you know that undocumented immigrants, just in the last year that we have measurement for, which is 2022, just in that year alone, they paid $34 billion into our Social Security and Medicare fund. And here's the thing. When they work at these jobs, construction, STEM research, which nearly 25% of everyone in STEM in the United States is an immigrant, and in restaurants, hotels, and hospitalities, yes, when they get a paycheck, the Social Security and Medicare line, it gets taken from them too. They get taxed. The difference is they can't come back and use it later. So they are subsidizing our taxes. And if we were to lose immigrants in the workforce, we would lose at least $20 billion a year in our Social Security fund. You want to talk about it being less solvent, that would make it less solvent. All of this is a mind game. All of this is a lie. And as long as it dehumanizes them, as long as it vilifies them, as long as it gets the crowd riled up, he doesn't care. Now, I want to say that once I saw this, it all started to make sense. It's not just that Mike Lee himself has a history of anti immigration, it's that his family also has a history of anti emigration, EM. Immigrants come from one country to another. Emigrants usually are passing through from one territory or state to another. And this emigration process was really common with people passing through Utah back in the days of the early settlers. Why? Because you had a lot of people starting out in the East Coast and from the Southeast, and they were migrating to the West Coast with the gold rush and all these newfound opportunities and the tale of the land in Oregon, right? This is the big migration to the West. So people passing through Utah, not that uncommon. In fact, it became quite a common occurrence, and apparently certain people in Utah started watching for them. In 1857, there was a wagon train of immigrants, mostly from Arkansas, making their way out west to start a new life. And a Mormon militia attacked that wagon train. 120, all of them, all of the people of the wagon train, 120 men, women, and children were all killed. It is one of the darkest chapters in Utah's history, and it became known as the Mountain Meadows Massacre. They held trials to find out who was responsible for this heinous act, and one man was found to be the leader, found guilty, and convicted for the Mountain Meadows Massacre. His name was John D. Lee. He is Mike Lee's great grandfather. In 1877, after the trials, he was not only convicted, he was executed by firing squad by the U.S. government. So they were serious. So stomach churning behavior runs in the family. Yeah. So this is the guy that we have in a U.S. Senate seat. If you're wondering, I've already checked, friends. He is not up until 2028. But I got to tell you, Utah, while it might be Republican, it also is the state that gave us Mitt Romney, a very decent fellow. And there are people in Utah who are genuine public servants, and that state is shifting in its own way. We got to primary this dude. So hold me accountable in a couple of years when we get past midterms. This dude is on our list. Can we make a handshake agreement as a family that we will find someone that will primary this SOB? All right, Mike Lee. Yeah, right? The stories. All right. Let's go ahead and take some of your comments and questions. I don't want to stay too long on the situation that happened in Minnesota. It's a very dark situation. There's not a lot of good that can come out of that. But I guess my question is, do any of you expect that at some point there will be someone in the Senate, especially because they're supposed to be the grown-up body of government, that puts an end to what's happening right now? Is like, listen, do it again and you get censured. This is not who we are. Are any of us, because Carol's bringing up, or Carol Sue Creations. Carol, I'd love to know what you create. Why isn't he being fired or forced to resign? All he did so far was delete the tweets. Right? Like, he hasn't even formally apologized, much less like called the family or what have you. Cash asks, why don't state constituents exercise their impeachment power? All of that takes organizing, and this is the type of thing that if a candidate stepped forward and said, listen, he doesn't belong there, but I think I can do a better job of representing you. I don't know what Utah's recall process is, so I'm just going to say that not every state has one. Efriz says, remember when Al Franken resigned over pictures? Yeah. Okay. This is far worse. I agree, Frizz. I agree. Now, Patricia, Searching Eagle, love that name as well, gave us a perfect segue. Do we think we're going to war? Here's what we know. I'm going to tell you the good with the bad, and forgive me as I do a little bit of Googling because I want to make sure that I give you the most recent information about a particular bill. So bear with me just a bit because it's been changing. Okay, we got it. So I wanted to confirm this. So normally, to go to war, Congress, and any of you that are legal or political scholars, correct me if I'm wrong, but Congress has to authorize an act to go to war. And if any of you remember the infamous vote to go to the Iraq War, it is ultimately what gave, in my opinion, Senator Barack Obama an opening against, at the time, Senator Hillary Clinton, because he did not vote to go to war. And she did. So, and that, in hindsight, turned out to be a better set of judgment at the time. Now, technically, Congress is supposed to authorize it. Now, preemptively, if you haven't been following the story, essentially, my understanding is Israel bombed Iran. Confirmed deaths included nuclear scientists, heads of state, etc. Iran then sends a bunch of ballistic missiles over to Israel. Israel then retaliates and sends something else. And the last I read is Iranian state TV was saying, look out, we're about to do something again. So it's a lot of back and forth. How does this involve us? We don't know. Because at first, 47 said, yeah, we weren't involved. In fact, there was a lot of ridicule because people were saying he didn't even know that the first strike with Israel was coming, which, if you're counting, that is twice that a major military strike happened from one of our allies, one with Ukraine with that brilliant strike involving the drones and the secret houses that the roofs came open, right? US wasn't informed because they thought that we would inform Russia. And this time, Israel allegedly did not inform. The whole loose lips kind of thing. Can't stop us if you don't know. But then 47 was like, oh no, I did know. In fact, we may have sent over some of those weapons. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Then people who follow military air traffic on patterns on different websites, which, God love those people. Like, they have so much knowledge and they bring it to us at just the right time. Like, this is their moment. But imagine just staring at screens of airline traffic patterns all the time, waiting for something to emerge. So there was a huge shift of American military aircraft that started heading towards Europe and has been confirmed to have landed in various spots in Europe, including Spain, that they consider to be some sort of staging area. So are we at war? Are we not at war? Are we about to go to war? Well, one congressman so far, Thomas Massie, who is a Republican from Kentucky, stepped up and said that he's not ready to authorize a war. And so he proactively, last night, he introduced a bipartisan war powers resolution to prohibit American involvement in this war, just to make it super clear. So it's like, listen, I don't know if you understand that Congress is supposed to authorize this stuff in general, but just in case you're unclear, we're going to make a super specific rule so that you can understand, sir, you cannot do this unless or until we give permission. And this is what I wanted to confirm. He said, this is not our war. If it were, Congress must decide such matters according to our Constitution. I'm introducing a bipartisan war powers resolution to prohibit our involvement, and I invite all members of Congress to co-sponsor this resolution, to which AOC, among others, said, signing on, I'm in. So this looks to be a bipartisan resolution to slow this train down. What is going to happen? Will they actually stick with it? Massie acting like an adult, as Professor Liberty says. Will Congress, will this be the red line that causes Republicans to say, wait a second, no. Now, listen, I can hear you, I can feel you as the words come out of my mouth, all right? I understand this, that we are used to getting disappointed and disgusted with Congress. I understand that. But understand that many of these people are anti-war. Some of them for reasons of not wanting to kill people. Some of them for fiscal spending reasons. Wars are expensive. So for a lot of different reasons, from all spectrums of the political belief system, a lot of people in Congress are going to be against us. Can they stop him? Will they stop him? That's what we're keeping an eye on. So again, I'm going to give you the name of the bill which I'm going to say right now, poorly named. Thank you, Representative Massey. But the bill, let me just give you, it is the War Powers Resolution, which if you asked me to tell you a guess as to what that bill does, I would have said the opposite, that it gives you the power to go to war. So I think it's poorly named. So just keep an eye on it. And yeah, we're going to see what happens with this. We're going to follow this. I will tell you that he left G7 early, which I'm sure caused a sigh of relief among all the other attendees in Canada. But at the same time, they were like, well, he's going because of the escalating situation in Israel and Iran. He's like, no, I'm not. He said, well, maybe I am. Maybe I have an inside track. And then he was like, everyone from Tehran needs to leave now! Exclamation point. As if Godzilla was coming. No context, no responsibility, no follow-up, just the ineptitude. So the short answer is we don't know if we're going to war. We are going to keep track of it, but follow this bill, follow Massey. I will tell you that I have seen a number of people that are far left bloggers and commenters and people that really pushed for 47 to get reelected that are saying, this is it. I'm done if he pushes us into war. It's the one thing that we said we didn't want to see happen. Again, I don't know why this particular thing is the red line, but we'll take what we can get. Can Congress finally stop him? Whew. All right. Well, you know who can stop him and make it rain on his parade, so to speak. All of you. Let's pivot to a breath of fresh air and celebrate the wins, shall we? If you are just joining us, I'm Shawna Presley Vercher. This is Political Fixer Live. We've been talking about the headlines of the week, and I've been going at full speed here, and we are still barely getting it in. A lot of dark news, but let's celebrate the good. And I have some fun stuff for you with this as well. All right, no king celebrations, protests, rallies, whatever you want to call them. Who went? Where'd you go? I want to hear from you. Did any of you go to anything in your area? Where was it? If you feel comfortable, even if you just want to say the state to protect yourself, like who got to go to something like this? What were your takeaways? And what was your favorite sign? Whether you went or not, whether you were just online or whether you were rooting everyone on and spreading the word, which is also very important, or if you were there in person, who went and what was your favorite? All right, Seminole County. Oh, that's right. I got my Florida girl Marlene on here. We've got Newark from, Newark, Delaware, Square Foot Gardening. Love that. Hannah Lee says, I was in a red town in Ohio and was blown away at how many people were there. Oh, that just makes me happy. Incognito Bird was in NYC. At Self says, Columbia, South Carolina, great turnout. Nev says, I helped organize. Hold on, I want to get Nev credit here because this is awesome. You guys are going so fast. I helped organize over 500 people in Sioux City, Iowa. Go Nev. Big Die Country says, I went with my daughter. Hold on one second. Montana, fantastic. Annette Baker says, me went to Christiansburg, Virginia. Love it. Marlene says her protest was peaceful and patriotic. Kate was in Tustin, California. Midlife cringe in Chicago. Chicago showed out. I mean, everyone did great, but Chicago, I was like, whoa, okay. Sammy Girl said Alabama. That's right. Alabama, deep home. Dias, Florida, love it. Page 852 says, yes, I went in Texas. Her creation, downtown LA, also impressive. Chris says, yes, Cape May, New Jersey, very red area. Thousands showed up, made a video. Awesome, Chris. I'll have to check out your TikTok later and find that video. Let's see. Amazing. All right. Let's see. Nancy Schiller says, went to downtown St. Louis, was fabulous. Everyone was kind. I love this. Oh, Square Foot Gardening says she wore a paper crown and held a DT toilet brush as the scepter. Love that. Oh, Kathy, you were in my backyard. You went to Newport Richie. I love that. Patricia was at home but watched everything. That is amazing. And when you like and share, Patricia, you are changing the media narrative. You are also helping out. Awesome. So favorite sign, Trump, that boy ain't right. Love that. 100,000 in Chicago. Vivian was in Dallas. OC and J had an awesome turnout. No issues in downtown Chicago. Red was in Houston, Texas. Love it. Let's go Cougs. Um, it's my, the U of H and my high school, both were the Cougs. All right. Downtown, uptown, said California favorite sign. Hey, taco. Our nation is Nacho Kingdom. That is amazing. I'm going to remember that one. Everett, Washington State from Dale. And fantastic, Mrs. Fox says, my husband and I brought our 15-year-old nephew and I had a really great time. And that is excellent mentoring. Fort Lauderdale, right in my neck of the woods, Susie. I love it. Amazing. Murpharon went to Middletown, Ohio. Someone drove by with fascist symbols and then rear-ended a police car. That is a guy that was about to have a much worse day, right? A sign from an NHL fan, the only kings in this country are the LA Kings. Okay, Professor Liberty, I'm going to counter with that, being Shawna Presley Vercher. I loved it in Memphis when I saw both. We only have one king, and that's BB. And then I saw we only have one king, and that's Elvis. So I loved that. And then Minnesota had a sign that says, we don't have kings around here, only a prince, in like purple glittery writing, which I love. Toledo, Ohio from JoJo. No kings protest. It was peaceful, organized, and purposeful. Squarefoot said there was a sign that said, one taco to go. This is amazing. All right, well, let me give you some fun gossip to reward you all for your efforts. I don't know if you've heard this story or not. If you haven't seen the videos that are like the mashups of the other parade, the birthday bash that wasn't, it's hilarious to me just how poorly that went. I thought it would go poorly. I'm not trying to diminish any of the men and women in uniform at all. They do their jobs and they do them proudly, but it was very apparent that many of them didn't want to be there. And I'm, again, not a military expert, and so some of you can correct me if this is not the case, but my understanding is when you're marching in formation in the military and you march past the commander in chief, then as a sign of respect, you're supposed to all turn your head to face that person. And that many of them did not, and that it was their silent form of protest because of feeling like this was inappropriate. Felon 47 did look miserable, Carol Sue. And Beck is saying that I'm correct there. Squarefoot Garney, Air Force vet. J Robot weighing in, the guy walking through just holding the drone, just standing there just like, couldn't care less, just holding a drone and walking through like, yep, this is what we got. Hilarious. Soldiers were out of step. Yes. And you know, what's interesting is the Marines performed, I want to say in Times Square, there was like a color guard situation and it was beautiful. And it was like, oh, that's right. This is what we're capable of when we want to be, right? The squeaky tank, one of my favorite things. So I started mentally as a Disney girl, making a list of the difference between the parade that 47 had and the Disney Main Street parade that they have, and just kind of comparing like pros and cons. So, you know, if you attend the Disney Main Street parade in Florida, it's hot and humid. Apparently it was like pea soup in the DC area, that people were drenched with humidity, and they actually had to start the parade early because they were expecting a thunderstorm. So the weather, hot, sticky, and humid. So in that way, we're tied with Disney and 47's parade. Disney, you have to get there an hour at least before the parade starts, even though they have it every single day and it is packed. It is every seat taken, all the people standing there. If any of you have ever been to Disney World, people have children on their shoulders trying to see. The DC parade, not so much. Poorly attended. At Disney, they have to remember choreographed numbers and dances and sing and be in step and keep an eye on the float in front of them and make sure to interact with the crowds and the children. The military was clearly not feeling it. As J Robot pointed out, at one case just walking by, just holding a drone, just like, I have to be here, right? But possibly my favorite thing when I was looking to compare Disney parades with 47's parade is that if you, here's one way he wins out. If you go to Disney, it can be expensive. You have to pay to go. Sometimes hundreds of dollars, thousands. If you have a large family and you get souvenirs and food, it can be quite pricey to go to Disney. But it turns out if you all had been on top of things and not been lollygagging with your No Kings protests, you could have made money this weekend. That's right. The Economic Times, as confirmed by multiple media outlets, has reported that there was a Craigslist ad that came up asking for seat fillers at the last minute in the 2 days leading up to the military birthday parade. And they said they used the phrase that they're trying to have maximum perception control, that you have to wear red, white, and blue, and that they would provide a red hat. But gold jewelry was okay. Of course it is. It's got to match your new gold 47 phone, right? The ad offered to pay $1,000 in cryptocurrency to anyone who showed up, and it was funded by the PAC, Fight, Fight, Fight LLC, which also runs the Trump cryptocurrency company. So you guys could have made money. You missed out, right? You all went to your protests all over the world. You could have made $1,000 in cryptocurrency. What can go wrong with this plan? Carol Sue says there's not enough money. I know. Midlife cringe. I wish I was making it up. I'm going to hold up the Economic Times article, not making it at all. So someone knew this was going to go sideways from moment one. Oh, as we say, bless their hearts. I think like the only thing that is saving Marco Rubio and Hegseth from not getting just eviscerated right now, with the clips showing them yawning and looking bored and all, and Hegseth's ultimately in charge of the military, and someone's got to be blamed because it's someone else's fault all the time, right? I think that this escalation of detentions and this, trying to take us into war, it's all one big distraction again, right? Hold on, I want to read you guys' comments. Renee says, how is this reality? Girl, I do not know. Dale says, you always have great tidbits of interesting facts. I spend way too much time online. That's really what it comes down to. And when I know that I'm amusing myself and I'm causing myself to chuckle, then I hope to bring a little bit of that petty joy to all of you. I feel like we all work hard during the week. We also are working hard to save our democracy. We've earned a little pettiness. Like that's the way I look at it. All right. Oh my gosh, we are at already 49,000 likes. Wow. And we've got so many fantastic gifts. I see KP. I want to check in with Sarah here. We've got Penny, the visionary girl, Dale, Callie, so many people that are making the night so special for my team and I. I'm reading some more of your stuff that our team is capturing, and thanks to our chief of staff, Sarah. Okay, someone said they saw a sign at a parade that had a trumpet in the dumpster. That's hilarious. I see a lot of more comments about who was at the different parades. So here's my question as we round out the night. I didn't want to miss Miss Terry, Michigan. We hadn't mentioned Michigan yet, so I wanted to say a shout out to Miss Terry. All right. So the No Kings, by all metrics, is a success. Some people are saying it was 7 million. Some people were saying it was 11 million. But here's what we know for sure. Millions of people in hundreds of locations showed up, some of which I saw it was raining sometimes. I saw it was like super hot in some places. Some places are really red and people were not sure how they would be welcomed or received. Some places had a pride event already scheduled, so they decided to just roll it into one big party, which was amazing. I think that was in Boston, one of the places, right? So we've got a lot of things happening right now. What are we going to use this amazing positive energy for moving forward? So if any of you have projects that you're working on, definitely want you to share them with the group. This is a super supportive group. Our Political Fixer family is great at supporting each other, not just in chats and communication, which hopefully those of you that are new to the Political Fixer family are learning that this is a really great supportive group, but also in helping each other out and sending each other advice and supporting each other's causes, right? Oh, I love this. Big Die Country said, my daughter's sign was, you can be small and make a big difference. Oh, so great. And Gracie wants to point out that she's so proud of the places where just a couple of protesters showed up because it's so brave. Absolutely true. The numbers do not tell the whole story at all. But let's take that momentum and move forward for sure. Now, Squarefoot says that Indivisible had a wrap-up call yesterday, which is awesome. I know a number of you that are going to be channeling your energy into different things. Let me tell you a couple of things we're going to be working on, and I want to make sure that you all continue with adding the things that you're working on as well. All right, first of all, we have officially launched Political Fixer Pack. We haven't done it loudly yet. You all are the first ones to know. You are Fixer family, but we are going to start making videos, posts, articles, the works about the pack. And what we're going to be using those funds for are three things. Number one, to create media, to educate people about what's actually happening and to try to break this spell and break through the misinformation and get actual relatable information out there in bite-sized pieces. And we got some pretty big long form projects coming out too. The second thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be organizing and training. If any of you are running for office, or if you volunteer for a local party or a local club or a group, or if you want to get together a group of friends, we want to come to you and train or do something and train online. Whatever we have that's information you can use about fundraising, messaging, mistakes that organizations make as they're trying to get going or trying to grow. There's so many things that we can do together. And so training is the second thing. But we're also getting to the heart of the matter, which is we are going to pick races and we are going to be running media, ads, organizing, and in some cases knocking doors to make sure that we flip these midterms. We have to do it. And in fact, we're going to announce one of our first races this week. So if you're not already following Political Fixer, please do so. And if there's anything else, I see that July 4th, let me mention what everybody else is saying here. So politicalfixer.com and follow me at Political Fixer so that we can get you plugged into this stuff. Okay, nokings.org is going to be organizing another event for the 4th. July 4th, that makes sense. Independence Day, right? A young woman said, my parents don't have a mugshot. Love that. Okay, so Cash says, I would love to do some training online. Missed last week's meeting, but I'm in New Jersey. Fantastic. And Cash, I'm always in New Jersey. We have a team member. Sarah's in New Jersey. Eddie's in New York. I'm up there in New Jersey for work all the time. And spoiler alert, it looks like we might be doing at least one, if not two races in New Jersey that we're going to be targeting to help get them across the finish line. So if any of you have things that you would like to have us help out with, please let us know. Go to politicalfixer.com. That's politicalfixer.com and let us know what's going on. And here's your other homework that I would love to hear from you if you don't mind. We are still compiling the list of races that we feel like we should target. We are a national organization, so we're going to largely focus on congressional races, Senate races, and I do think we're going to get involved in a couple of governor's races as well. So those are the main focus, but if you give us a good reason why we should be getting our audience to pay attention to a race that's you're passionate about, let us know. And it could be a candidate, but it could also be a ballot initiative because some of those things are nasty, right? Patricia says, want to help in New Hampshire, but your body won't let me knock doors. Listen, if you want to help, Patricia, there are ways you can share stuff on social. We could get you some numbers to text or call people, or if that's not your flavor, you could start sharing things with like email lists or what have you. We can definitely get you some ways you can do so from wherever you are. Visionary Girls says there's another protest on July 17th. Visionary, is that also No Kings, or is there another link that people should follow for the July 17th event? I just want to make sure that we get that information out to people. Okay, so your homework. Three things. All right, here we go. Number one, if you want us to work with you and your community online, what have you, you're going to let us know. You can go to politicalfixer.com. And if you haven't already, please follow Political Fixer at the TikTok account, especially, but on any of the platforms, because we're going to be rolling out with our messaging. And we would really, really, really appreciate it if you help amplify. But more than that, I want to hear from you. As we have a national team of advisors, we're working together. We're trying to represent a number of different groups at the table. It's not just me. We are getting people from different communities, particularly marginalized communities from different parts of the country. And we are going to have them weigh in on the races that we select, that we put a lot of energy behind, and hopefully funding as we all rally together. So if you have a race that you feel really passionate about, a seat that you think we can flip, that you just think if it had enough resources and media attention, we could do it, or a seat that's close that you're worried about us keeping, that kind of thing, right? It's in honor of John Lewis. Oh, fantastic. Talking about the July 17th. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. That's amazing. So we'll definitely try to re-amplify that as we continue and get closer to July 17th. We'll try to continue to amplify that, Visionary Girl. So thank you for sharing that. So let us know who you think we should be targeting and trying to get help to. Here's my thought. Some parties and groups and states, you guys have it down. Your communities hum like a machine. You have your systems, you know which doors to knock. You guys pull together during elections. You are stepping up and showing out every single time. But a lot of places don't have those resources. And right now, the DNC is going through some things. They've got some feelings, some transitions. Big organizations can be slow to change. We're going to wish them well, but we're not going to count on people to come save us. So that's what this is all about. We need to help push all of this up the hill. It's too important to just stand back and wait. So in some cases, we'll work alongside the party. In some cases, we'll just come in and rally the troops and get people what they need to get things done. And if we need to train the party along the way, we can absolutely do that. Iowa is so close to flipping to Democratic. Greg, I want to tell you, we are looking at that Senate race. I would love to know, and you don't have to tell me online in public if you don't want to, but I want to know if you think that JD is a good candidate for U.S. Senate. And again, we can talk offline, but I would love to know your thoughts on that. Because it's not just anybody but the other guy, right? We actually want to elevate people to power that are going to make worthy leaders. I know we don't always have that luxury, but if we get a chance, maybe we don't just elevate jerks, right? Maybe we don't do that. All right. Well, I hope that with everything going on, you all feel like this was a good use of time and you feel more positive. We did have to talk about a lot of dark, awful things that are happening, but it doesn't matter what's happening. Watching all of you stand together, either literally or together as a community online, is extremely inspiring, not just to me, but I'm sure to each of you as well. We are going to be back next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. for our West Coasters, so you can listen to us on the drive home or get home while we're cooking dinner. I would love to have you next week as well. Thank you, Midlife Prince, and so many others for saying nice things. I really do appreciate it. I want to make sure I got everybody. There's so many things. Okay. Let's say, okay, hold on. I want to make sure I got all the questions. I want to make sure I acknowledge Dale, Gracie, Professor Liberty Esquire, Visionary Girl, Callie, Divine AF Girl, Veronica, Penny, Vivian, Marlene, all of you, so many of you, and Murphyron, help me out. How do I say your name? Because you've been part of the Political Fixer family. I don't want to keep stumbling on it. Is it Murphyron or Murphyron? Like fire or fur? Like fur. I want to say hello to all of our Political Fixer family. Thank you so much for supporting us. Oh my gosh, we're at almost 65,000 likes on this lovely Tuesday evening. That's amazing. And I hope that you guys got a little bit of something out of the evening as well. Vivian sent us paper crane. I've never seen a paper crane before. That's amazing. Okay, Visionary Girl says you should create a Discord. Love that idea. Have no idea how to effectively use it. So if you want to go on politicalfixer.com and send me some tips, our actual email, info@politicalfixer.com, it's there. That's our real email. If you want to send me tips, Visionary Girl, I would welcome it, because I am a nerd gamer in some ways, but like Mario Kart gaming, not like Discord gaming. So I would love to see how to actually leverage that platform effectively. Oh, fur, like it's fur. Okay, Murpheron. So yeah, also I'm on Flip now. I don't know if any of you are on Flip. They invited me to attend and to get on there. So just this week we started Political Fixer. I've posted nothing on there but one video, but if any of you want to join me on Flip, message me and I'll send you, I can give you like a $30 promo code or something. I don't know what it does. I don't know it yet. I'm going to check it out. If any of you are on Flip, let me know, find me, teach me the lay of the land. And we're also growing our Blue Sky family as well at Political Fixer. So Flip is apparently like another video platform that got big when the survival of TikTok was questionable, and they have already over 5 million users, mostly from the United States. And so they reached out and said, well, we also put our content out there and help elevate the political discussion on Flip. And so we said, sure. So we signed up, and Veronica says, I have 500 social media apps. I feel you. I feel you. If you go to politicalfixer.com, with the exception of Flip, and no, I do not yet have a Discord. If you go to the Connect page, it has all of my socials. And so if you follow me on anything like Blue Sky or anything like that, I will follow you back for sure. Okay, I want you to take care of yourselves, and I want you to take care of each other. We don't know what's going to happen this week. There's literally missiles flying around and crazy news happening by the hour, but make sure that you do something to practice self-care, that you take deep breaths and you realize that you are not alone. Oh my goodness, are you not alone? Millions and millions and millions of us together. And those were just the people that could go, that were able to go, that had the time off work, that felt safe going, that didn't have something that was keeping them from going. I saw some of you had a cold and couldn't go, and we're so sad. There's a lot of reasons that people couldn't go, and yet still we saw millions and millions of beautiful faces out there from every walk of life. Did any of you see the 87-year-old man get arrested? It was so great. He got arrested for protesting the parade. They took his walker and arrested him, put zip ties on him. Then after he was released, they said, how does it feel to be 87 and have a criminal record? He's like, I'm going to take a nap and I'm going to do it again. So God love him. He was a veteran. Yes, Squarefoot, he was a veteran. All right, so let's just take that joy and hope into this week. And then hopefully I'll see some of you on the comments as we release some of this cool stuff, including a fun surprise race that we're starting with the pack. Want to get all of your feedback, definitely, and amplify your causes as well. And I'll see you next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, and we'll do another Political Fixer Live. We'll see if we can top this week. It's going to be hard. Have a great night, everybody. See you all soon. 70,000. Wow, you guys really blew up the likes. 70,000. That's awesome. Hello to our Substack family. If you joined the crazy, we really appreciate you. Thanks for being on.